Good morning from Niagara Falls. We have a beautiful sunrise this morning. There's still some sky in the clouds. Hopefully it stays that way. We may have been a little overzealous in our thinking we had to be here early. But at least we got to see the sunrise. I'm perched here at the top of the Secret Garden restaurant next to the Duty Free and Rainbow Bridge. Hopefully this will be the perfect spot to capture the falls, the people, and the eclipse, which should happen right about there. Wish me luck.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first official video on Pickled Swine's YouTube channel. As you probably already know by now, this video is about my journey up to Niagara Falls on April 8th, 2024 to see the eclipse that happened there, and all of the interesting and curious things that happened surrounding the eclipse. This video will also cover a little bit about my theories about these interesting things that happened. So let's get to it. We'll start on April 5th. This was the day that my mother flew in from Denver as she was joining me on this adventure. So I had finished packing and was ready to go. And I took out to meet her at the airport on the bright and early morning of April 5th when my van, Bernadette, or as I like to call her, Bernie, broke down just outside or just as I got off of the Triborough Bridge in Queens. Unfortunately, I was stuck there, and so she ended up renting a rental car at the airport and came to me. And while we were waiting for a tow to get Bernie to a car doctor, an earthquake happened, which I know many of you probably experienced or at least heard about. The funny thing is that I didn't feel the earthquake, although my mom did. After many hours of waiting for our tow truck, Bernie finally got towed, and I decided to take my mom out for a night on the town in the big city. Moving forward to April 6th, this was our travel day. We left bright and early and got to Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania state line, when I realized that I had forgotten my passport. Oh boy. So, as I remembered that, we ended up having to drive all the way back to New York City to pick it up and then make our way back towards Niagara Falls. On our route, I ended up seeing a pig that steals people's souls. It certainly tried to steal mine, but I would not let it. Outside of Elmira, New York, is when we first started noticing eclipse warning signs along the side of the road, telling people to be aware of traffic and congestion and all that kind of thing. As I remember, the mayor of Niagara Falls on the Canadian side was predicting over 1 million people would be attending this celestial event. We saw many more of these along the way, as well as in Buffalo and also in Niagara Falls when we finally made it to Rainbow Bridge to cross the border into Canada.
Going over the Rainbow Bridge.
I think there's a Ferris wheel.
Oh yeah. Say hi. Hello, Canada. Fancy seeing you here. Oh my God.
Woohoo!
Welcome to Canada. We're gonna see
Let's
the
vote for-
eclipse.
oh, we're in French. Is that what that is?
Yep.
You want pick a lane, any lane?
Pick a lane, any lane. This is where we.
Is this the border?
This is the border. See, Canada.
Once we made it past Rainbow Bridge, we drove through central Niagara Falls on the Canadian side and made it to our motel, which I will label or name the Unsuper 8. Okay, April 7th was a beautiful sunny spring day. There were almost no clouds in the sky, and the object of this day was to figure out where to set up shop on the 8th for the eclipse and where to shoot my photographs from. Um, it was important to me that I got a photograph that included, of course, the eclipse event happening as well as the falls, because obviously we're in Niagara Falls for this eclipse event. And so the falls and the eclipse are both important aspects of the photograph that I wanted to take. And I also wanted to capture the crowds of people. With as many as a million people being predicted to show up, I thought it would be important to have some sort of a social context to my photograph so that it wasn't just a photograph of the eclipse or a photograph of the falls, but it also had this impactful narrative nature behind it. So we decided to start our day by walking back across the Rainbow Bridge to America to scope out spots there. We found a potential spot at Prospect Point for shooting this photograph, which is near the American Falls. I was using my star chart app to determine where in the sky the sun would be from 3:20 to 3:23 p.m. on April 8th, so that I could determine the photograph that I was going to take and how I would line everything up. Um, Here is a photograph, or here's a photo from the location at Prospect Point, and it would have looked something like this. Obviously, there would have been more people, and the sun would have been in a different location, and there would have been an eclipse happening. But this is generally what this photograph would have looked like. We did stop for a moment to take in the power of the falls. I have to say, I'm always very hypnotized by the sound that they make. I do know that running water in itself, the frequencies, the vibrational frequencies that are emitted, the sound of running water is healing in itself. And so, just simply taking in the falls, the sound of the falls is healing in itself. So we had to stop and do that for just a moment, and then it was back on our way to Canada. We crossed the Rainbow Bridge again. I did find the absolute perfect spot to shoot my photograph from, which would have included everything that I wanted to include. And that would have been from the Rainbow Bridge itself, although the border guards were pretty strict on letting me know that I would not be able to shoot my photograph from the Rainbow Bridge and that they would not let me stay there until the eclipse. So I had to find a different spot. And that's when my spot on top of the secret garden came into play. This seemed to be, after much deliberation and trying to figure out other spots, this seemed to be the best spot to shoot this from. So once we figured that out, we decided to chase some rainbows as it was a perfect day for the many rainbows that we saw. And we even saw a Nikola Tesla sighting, although I don't think it was the Nikola Tesla most people think of, as there was a boat named the Nikola Tesla that we saw going through a rainbow. After our enjoyment and running around in the rainbows, we met my cousin and her boyfriend for dinner. She's attending school at the University of Toronto, and so they made the drive down. And we had a great time. We did the Ferris wheel here in Niagara Falls. And while we were up there, we did notice that a lot of the greens, the putting greens at the mini golf course, seemed to be illicitly shaped. I don't know if this was by design or not, but it was definitely noticed. After that, we were told by my cousin and her boyfriend that you can't leave Canada without trying a beaver tail. I was a little surprised at all of this, but in the end, I found that beaver tails are very delicious, and I highly recommend them for anyone visiting Canada. All this time, the captain was back at the Unsuper 8 holding down the fort. Thank goodness for her.
It is 7:30 in the morning, and I'm officially set up. I've got a full spectrum camera that I will be recording video of the eclipse. I've got my A7C Sony full frame mirrorless system camera, which I will be photographing the eclipse, the falls, and the people when they get here. I've got my action cam that will be doing a time lapse of the people showing up and then leaving. And then I've got my millimeter here, which is actually measuring a pretty consistent 1.7 to 1.4, something around there. Just to see how the eclipse is affecting the electromagnetic fields in the area. So it's actually kind of interesting that I'm getting any readings at all right now. Ooh, 3.9, 3.5, 2.9, let's see, 4.1. So that might be my phone. Seems to be. Let's see if we can. 1.0, 3.6, yeah. Oh, 1.3. So we're getting some interesting readings on that, but check back later.
I was set up and ready to go. However, it was still very early, and so I decided to do some wandering around in the secret garden just to see what it had to offer. I even met a friend in the bathroom. In my wandering around of the secret garden, I discovered the Oaks Garden Theater, and that seemed to actually be a bit of a better location, so I decided to move to that location instead.
You can see the Horseshoe Falls right there and part of the Niagara skyline. The eclipse, the sun should be about right there, I think. So I've now moved and I'm getting much more typical millimeter readings of 0.0, no fluctuations. So there was definitely something interfering in my old spot, and I'm now in this new spot in the secret garden. And I'm getting constant 0.0, so that seems a little more normal. And it is about 10:10 now, so I'll update as we go along and see if there's any sort of strange readings as we get closer to the eclipse. Oh, we're getting a little bit of a 0.4 there for a second. Curious. So here we go.
The morning of the 8th, there was a lot of sky in between the clouds, but as the eclipse started at 2:04 Eastern Standard Time, the cloud cover just became progressively thicker and thicker. We were only able to see glimpses of the eclipse as it was happening when the clouds broke just enough.
Now you see me, now you don't. Wow.
We also noticed right before totality happened, there were three large four propeller black military planes that flew by one at a time. And we noticed this in the time between 2:04 and 3:18 p.m. Shortly after we had seen the three planes fly by at different intervals, a very large, very dark cloud moved in to obscure our view of the eclipse. Not long after this cloud moved in, the sky began to get dark, very dark.
Oh my gosh! Wow! Oh my god! Woo! Oh my god, it is totally dark! Wow!
Look, the lights came on.
Oh my god! Woo, 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 woo! Woo, woo,
I get this picture.
woo! Oh my god! I had no idea.
I never imagined. Wow.
It's ridiculous.
Oh
Make
my
them flash.
God.
They were under the moon's shadow. It's the middle of the day.
I need
It
to
is.
turn my flash off. How do you turn your flash off?
3:18 p.m. in the morning, apparently. Oh my God. This is trippy. Wow. During totality, I was able to take a Mel meter reading and got zeros, no craziness going on. But by the end of totality, by the time it started to get light again, it got cold enough to see my breath, which I was pretty surprised about. We sat in darkness for a few minutes before we started to notice the sun coming back into the sky. Look, you can see it coming. Here it comes. Oh, there it is, right there. There it is.
Those are 400 shots. Let's go. What time is it?
This segment is a time lapse of the moments leading up to totality as well as totality itself, and then the moments afterwards that was taken on my full spectrum camera. Now, a full spectrum camera is a camera that has been modified to capture not only visible light, like most cameras capture, but also near infrared and near ultraviolet light wavelengths as well. I was using this camera because I wanted to see if anything curious would be caught on this. It seems as though it captured what everyone else saw, but I thought it was an interesting addition to this movie.
It's like that cat from Alice in Wonderland.
The Cheshire Cat.
Yeah. The clouds are moving and
In the end, people left much more quickly than they had arrived. I spent all this time planning for a photograph that I never even got to take because of the clouds. I did capture this photograph, however, moments after totality ended, of the sun peeking through the clouds. After totality, as the moon kept moving across the sun and the eclipse began to end, I started to notice curious cloud formations like these. I'm not sure exactly what they mean, although I feel like this can't be all coincidence, because by 4:45 p.m. the clouds were almost gone and a brilliant bright sunlight was shining down upon us. I think it's curious that the day before was almost completely cloud-free and sunny, and the day after, on April 9th, it was almost completely cloud-free and sunny. And I think along the path of totality through the United States, there were other places where weird cloud situations were happening. Um, I also feel sometimes like bad weather follows me as I relate back to my 3 month journey at the beginning of 2023, when I was traveling around the country investigating the paranormal. All of my outdoor investigations were met with some sort of interesting or severe weather. So I don't know if things are following me or what is going on, but it can't be a coincidence. There's definitely something going on. Now, even though a million people didn't show up to this event, there were still around 200,000 people, and the crowd was intense. The planning of the eclipse was intense. It was all a pretty intense moment. And so we decided to let our hair down a little bit afterwards, and we decided to see what Canadian Niagara had to offer. We discovered an upside down house that really toyed with my senses. We also stopped into the Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum, and I got an offer to be a part of their exhibition. I'm still thinking about it. We also found a portal to somewhere, although I'm not really sure where that portal went to.
Go.
Crazy.
At the end of the night, we had come back to the Unsuper 8, and I was smoking a cigarette out on the walkway, and I was looking at my star chart app, and I noticed that the planets Mars, Saturn, Neptune, Venus, the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Uranus, and Jupiter were all aligned to the path of the Sun. So if you look in this video, the dotted line is the path of the Sun, or the path that the Sun takes. And all of these planets were somehow aligned on the day of the eclipse, April 8th. This screen video that I captured was done at 9:44 p.m. However, it can't be a coincidence that all of these planets aligned on the same day as the solar eclipse. And so I think that there is a lot astrologically that is happening right now, and it's important that we acknowledge this and that we also give ourselves a break, because I think that a lot of us are experiencing some pretty intense transitions right now. So, a robot? Oh my God! Is it gonna- Just serving everything up. Oh my God! Oh my God! Are you kidding me?
Aren't you glad we came here now?
I am really glad we came here now. As you may have noticed, I was pretty amazed to see a robot working at the Swiss Chalet restaurant on the Canadian side of Niagara Falls. After our delicious brunch there, we went down the Falls Incline Railway to the tour behind the falls, where we got to go through various tunnels and look at a few portals that opened up to the backside of the waterfall. The waterfall. We also got to stare at the majesty of the falls at the base of Horseshoe Falls, where Nikola Tesla had made another appearance. Appearance. And then it was back to America, where we ran into one more rainbow before we left. And on our way back home to New York, we made a stop in North Java, New York, to see where my grandmother was born and my great grandparents lived, as well as my great great grandparents and my great 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 grandparents on my mother's side. In the end, this was an unforgettable trip. Everything I expected to happen didn't, and it happened in different ways, and it was ultimately just a true adventure with many twists and turns. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for many more adventures to come.